is a voice inside you. Not the loud one, not the one that tells you what you should do, what other people expect, what the sensible path looks like. The other one, the quieter one, the one that sometimes speaks in the middle of the night when everything else has gone still. When did you last actually listen to it? Hi, I'm Moon, and this is English with Moon, a slow, gentle place for your English and your heart. The moon doesn't explain itself. It rises, it gives its light, it follows its own quiet rhythm without asking anyone's permission. Tonight, we're going to talk about learning that same quiet trust in yourself. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments, spread across years. Someone told you your feeling was wrong, that you were overreacting, too sensitive, too much, and because you were young, or because you trusted them, or because you were simply tired of fighting, you believed them, or you made a decision once that didn't work out, and the mind said, "See, you can't trust your own judgment. Look what happens when you listen to yourself." Or you grew up with a very clear picture of the right path, the right school, the right job, the right way to build a life. And your own wants didn't fit that picture. So you learned to push them down, to quiet them, to choose the sensible thing instead. There are other versions of this. Some of us were raised in homes where emotions were treated as problems, inconveniences, disruptions, something to be managed rather than felt. We learned to skip past our feelings to get to the solution. Some of us were praised for being independent, self-sufficient, strong, and somewhere in that praise, we absorbed the lesson that needing anything, wanting anything, was a kind of weakness. Some of us simply watched the adults we loved make choices based on fear, and we inherited that same caution. Don't want too much. Don't hope too visibly. Don't risk being disappointed. None of this makes you broken. It makes you human, but it leaves behind a habit of looking outward for answers, of distrusting the voice that comes from inside. And slowly, over time, you forget the voice was ever there. You forget it was yours. You forget there was something worth trusting underneath all that quiet. Here is something I find worth sitting with. We are not born without self-trust. Small children trust themselves completely. They know when they are hungry without being told. They know when they are tired. They know when they want to be held and when they want to be put down and when they want to run. They don't ask permission to feel things. They just feel them. Watch a young child encounter something that genuinely frightens them. They don't question the feeling. They don't wonder if it's appropriate or proportionate. They simply move toward the person they trust or away from the thing that scared them. Clean, immediate, uncensored response to their own inner state. Something changes on the way to adulthood. we learn that some of our feelings are inconvenient, that what we want is not always what we are allowed to want. We absorb the lesson that grown-ups know better, and in many cases, they do. But somewhere in that learning, many of us absorb something extra, not just listen to others when they have more experience, but your own knowing doesn't count. And sometimes this happens gently with love. A well-meaning parent who always knew better, who stepped in just a little too quickly, so you never quite had to find out what your own answer would have been. Sometimes it happens in school, where the curriculum had the answers and your job was to provide them. Sometimes it happens in a culture that measures intelligence by how much you know, not by how clearly you can hear yourself. The erasure is not usually cruel. It usually isn't even noticed, but it is real, and it is worth undoing. Even when we stop listening to our minds, the body keeps telling us the truth. You felt it, walking into a room and knowing something is wrong before you can name what. Meeting someone and feeling in your chest, in your stomach, be careful. Being asked to agree to something and saying yes with your mouth while something in you quietly tightens. That tightening is not weakness. It is not anxiety misfiring. It is information. Your body is carrying everything you have ever experienced. Every conversation, every relationship, every time something felt right or wrong. It is always paying attention, even when your conscious mind is distracted by the next task. And when it sends a signal, a tightening, an opening, a sense of unease or rightness, it is trying to tell you something. Learning to trust yourself begins with learning to listen to your body again, not to obey it blindly. Not every tight feeling is reliable. Sometimes it is old fear from an old story that no longer applies. But every feeling is worth asking about. What are you trying to tell me? The answer might not come right away. The body often speaks in images, in textures of feeling, in the quality of your breath, rather than in clear words. You might sit with the question for a while. That sitting is not wasted time. That is the beginning of the conversation. Here is a question I want to address, because I think it's the real one. How do you know if what you're feeling is genuine knowing, your actual self speaking, or just fear? The honest answer: it's not always easy to tell, especially at first. But there are clues. Fear tends to be urgent, loud, frantic. It says, no, 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 something terrible will happen. It comes with catastrophic images and physical tension that wants to move you away from something quickly. Fear speeds things up. It narrows your thinking. It feels like an alarm that is very hard to turn off. Knowing is usually quieter, slower, less like an alarm and more like a steady pressure. It doesn't shout, it persists. Fear pushes you away from something in a panic. Knowing pulls you towards something, or away from something with a quality of clarity rather than chaos. Here is one way to feel the difference in practice. When you have a decision to make and you feel a strong feeling about it, try this. Imagine you've made the choice. Sit with it for a few moments. How does your body respond? If the feeling is fear, pretending to be knowing, sitting with the imagined choice often brings relief mixed with lingering anxiety. The fear is still working, but if it's genuine knowing, if this really is your inner voice, sitting with the imagined choice often brings a quality of settling. Not excitement, necessarily. Not certainty, just rightness. A kind of exhale. Both are worth listening to, but they want different things from you. Fear wants to be examined. Is this real danger or an old echo? Knowing wants to be trusted. With time and practice, you begin to feel the difference. Not in theory, in your body. Let me tell you about a woman named Priya. Priya had spent 8 years building a career in exactly the field her parents had hoped she would choose. She was good at it. She was respected. She moved up steadily, made good money, had a clear path ahead of her, and she was quietly, undeniably unhappy. Not dramatically unhappy, not in a way she could easily point to and say, "This is wrong." Just a low, persistent feeling, like a piece of music played slightly off-key. Every Sunday evening, she would feel the weight of Monday coming. She thought, everyone feels this way. This is what working life is. Then she was offered 2 jobs at the same time. One was the obvious choice, better title, higher salary, a name on her resume that everyone would recognize, the kind of offer that, on paper, has no argument against it. The other job was smaller, quieter, less money. But when she visited the office for her second interview, walking through a building she'd never seen before, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt like herself. For weeks after, she asked everyone she trusted what she should do. Her parents said, "Take the bigger job." Her colleagues said, "Take the bigger job." A career website she found at midnight said, "Take the bigger job." And she still couldn't decide. One night, lying awake at 3 in the morning, she stopped asking what she should do. She asked, "What do I actually want?" And before the thought was even finished, she had her answer. She took the smaller job. 3 years later, she told me, "I still don't know if it was the right choice by the world's standards, but it was the right choice for me." For the first time in my adult life, I feel like I'm living my own life, not someone else's version of it. She didn't make a final pros and cons list. She didn't run another survey. She just listened. Trust in yourself is not a switch you can flip. It is built slowly, through repeated experience, the same way you build trust with another person, by making small promises and keeping them. Start with tiny things. You feel like taking a different route home. Take it. Notice what you see on the way. When you arrive, something small in you registers. I listened, and it was okay. You feel like ordering something you've never tried before. Order it. Maybe you love it. Maybe you don't. Either way, you discovered something real about your taste, about your willingness to try, about what it feels like to follow your own quiet impulse instead of defaulting to the familiar. You feel like calling a friend you haven't spoken to in months, but something makes you hesitate. The timing isn't perfect. You don't have anything particular to say. Call anyway. See what happens. These are low-stakes decisions. Nothing much rides on them. But every time you act on your own quiet impulse, and something good comes from it, or even something interesting, or simply something new, you send yourself a small message. I listened to myself, and the world didn't end. And actually, that felt right. And slowly, over time, that message accumulates. I can trust myself with this kind of thing, and maybe with bigger things too. This is how it grows, not through a single brave leap, through 100 small honestnesses practiced quietly, day after day. Here is a practice, very simple, in the small decisions of your day. Before you reach for someone else's opinion or default to what you always do, pause. Ask yourself, what do I actually want right now? Not what I should want. Not what is sensible. Not what would be easiest to explain to someone else. What do I want? Give it 5 seconds, 10 seconds. See if something comes up. At first, it might not. If you've quieted the inner voice for long enough, it doesn't always answer right away. It has learned to be quiet because being quiet was safer. It might need a little time to understand that it's allowed to speak again. That's okay. Keep asking, gently, without pressure. You can also try asking in writing. Take a notebook and at the top of a page write, what do I actually want? Then write without stopping, without editing, without making it make sense for 5 minutes. Don't read it while you're writing. Just let it come. What you find there might surprise you. Not everything will be actionable. Some of it might be old longings, half-remembered wishes, things you can't do today or maybe ever. That's fine. You're not making a plan. You're listening. You're saying to the inner voice, I know you're there. I want to hear what you have to say. Over days, something starts to shift. Small preferences surface. You notice, actually, I'd rather do this. Or, this doesn't feel right. And I don't need to be able to explain why to know that it doesn't. Each time you notice, whether or not you act on it, you are rebuilding the relationship. Saying to yourself, I'm here, I'm listening, your voice matters. Trust doesn't arrive fully formed. It grows, one small conversation at a time. I see you. You have been asking other people for a long time. What should I do? What do you think? Am I making the right choice? And some of those people gave you good answers. Answers that came from love, from experience, from genuine care for your well-being. And some gave you their answers, which were right for them and not quite right for you. And you followed them anyway because their voice was louder, because their certainty was more convincing than your own quiet uncertainty, because you had forgotten somewhere along the way that you had a voice too. I want to tell you something about that. The voice that you've been dismissing, the one you've been overruling, deferring past, trusting less than everyone else's. That voice is not unreliable. It is not random. It has been paying careful attention to your life, to every room you walked into and felt at ease, to every decision you made that lit something up in you, and every one that closed something down, to every morning you woke up with something like purpose, and every morning that felt like going through the motions. It has been keeping a record, and the record is surprisingly detailed. The body holds it. The feeling holds it. The quiet, persistent pull holds it. Your voice was never gone. It was waiting, quietly, underneath all the noise. It is still there now. You might feel it, a faint pull, a small pressure, a knowing that lives somewhere between your ribs. A sense of this is right, or something is off here, or just a particular quality of yes when you imagine a certain path, and a particular quality of heaviness when you imagine another. That is you, the part of you that has been paying attention this whole time, even when you weren't listening. You are allowed to start trusting it. Not all at once. Not with the biggest decision you're facing. Start small. Start tonight. With a preference. With a want you don't have to justify. With a question you stop taking outside and sit with yourself instead. You have always known more than you've let yourself believe. Thank you for spending this time with me. This is English with Moon. I'm Moon, and I'm grateful you're here. Is there something your gut has been telling you that you haven't listened to yet? You don't have to say what it is. Just leave a word in the comments. I'm listening. A new episode arrives soon. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, the voice between your ribs knows things. Good night, friends.